Hi, boys and girls. Today is Thursday, so I want to call today Thank You Thursday. We're going to do a little activity or a little challenge today where we thank the people who are working right now. While we're at home, there are a lot of people who are still out working and doing their jobs so that we can stay safe, so that we can stay healthy, so that we can get our mail, so that we can get food, so that we can get specific things that we need. So there are a lot of people who are not getting to stay at home during this time. So I'm going to explain to you what types of people that I'm talking about. The word that a lot of people are using right now is the word essential workers. And if you can see my mouse on my screen, this big E word says essential. Essential means something that is very important, something that someone has to have. So today we're going to thank these essential workers for Thank You Thursday. So these essential workers are people who are still working to keep us safe and healthy and who keep our communities and our country and our state running. So let me show you some pictures of people that I know who are essential workers. And I bet if you think about it, or maybe if you ask your parents, they'll be able to tell you some ideas of essential workers too. So here's one. This is my friend Kelsey. She is a nurse. Right now, all of the nurses and the doctors are still working in hospitals and in doctors' offices and in nursing homes to keep patients healthy and safe. So she goes to work every day to be a nurse. I bet you recognize that guy, and I bet you recognize this boy right here. This is Landon and his sister, and that is Mr. Fletcher with them. Our principals are still working. So even though the students and teachers like me aren't in school, our principals are still working hard at school to make sure that all of our students and all of the teachers are taken care of. So I bet that was a pretty special visit that he made to Mackenzie and Landon. Some of you may know Mackenzie because she's one of our book buddies. People in the military are also considered essential workers. This is my cousin Aaron, and that's his little boy Zachary. He is an essential worker. He goes to work every day to make sure our country is safe. So we've talked a lot about military members, people in the Army or the Air Force or the Marines or the Navy or the National Guard or the Coast Guard. We've talked a lot about those people in class. We've also talked about veterans. Those military members are still having to work to keep us safe. So those men and women are considered essential workers as well. Pharmacists. Do you know what a pharmacist is? A pharmacist is someone who helps get people the medicine that they need. So this is my friend Catherine, and she's a pharmacist, and she's still having to go to work every day to help make sure that the patients and the people that she treats have the right medicine that they need. Do you recognize that girl? That is Miss Kristen. Her dad is a police officer. Police officers are also still working to keep our town and our state safe. So if you see them driving around, they're busy at work. They're patrolling and making sure that everything is okay in our community. They're not able to just sit at home and stay at home right now. Firefighters are also still working. This is my friend, Mr. Jim. He is the dad of one of my really good friends, and he is still having to go to work and fight fires. So sometimes you can't control when something catches on fire. So they have to be ready to work at all times, even when most people are having to stay inside. So he's working hard to help put out fires if any are started around our town. He's also, whenever school is in session, he's also one of the firefighters that come to our school to do the smokehouse that they teach us about. So you may have seen him there too. Some other people that are still working hard are cooks and restaurant workers. In the top picture, that is a restaurant here in Marion called The Vault. I know Mr. Rob, who owns that. They have delicious food. And so they're still having to work right now to make sure people in Marion have food. People can still order their food, so they have to be there cooking it and making sure that it's ready to be picked up. In the bottom picture, you might recognize that Jim. Those are our very own Lincoln Elementary cooks, and you might recognize our janitor, Justin, and Miss Corrine there. They're going to school every single day, even though we're not there, and they're still making lunches for some kids. If you have not picked up a lunch, by the way, you can tell your moms and dads that you are more than welcome to go to the school on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays and pick up some lunch and some breakfast and some snacks. If you want to get out of the house or maybe go for a drive, that might be a great place to go. They have it all set up for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But they're considered essential workers because they're also still working. And we have grocery store workers. How many of you have maybe you've gone or maybe your parents have gone to get groceries? We still have to eat, don't we? Even though we're inside, we still have to make sure that we have food in the refrigerator and in the pantry. So there are people that are still working at grocery stores. This is another lady that I know. Her name is Taryn. She works at Smalls here in Marion. So she is still having to work even though everybody else is staying home during this time as well. So that's all the pictures of workers that I have, but there are so many workers that are still working very hard, even if I didn't have a picture of them. So some other ones that I can think of are mail deliverers and people who work at a post office. Every day, if you go to your mailbox, you're still getting mail. Someone's having to put that mail in your mailbox. Bankers are also essential workers. Money still has to be taken care of. So there are people that are still working at banks right now. People who are truck drivers. Remember, Amaya's dad came in and talked to us. He drives trucks. There are all sorts of trucks and delivery guys that still have to be working right now. So maybe if you order something that has to be shipped to your house, there are people that are having to bring that to you. People who clean offices and businesses and restaurants and even schools, hospitals, doctor's offices, they're all having to be cleaned still. So people who clean are still working. So they're an essential worker too. People who work for the city of Marion and for the state of Illinois and for the United States, those people are still having to work to make sure that our city and our state and our country are still being run well. Our Mayor Absher, is working very hard. I've seen lots of videos and posts from him. He is working hard to make sure that Marion is being smart and staying safe. People who work in nursing home or in other facilities where people live, they're also still having to work right now to take care of people. People who do the news. Have you been watching the news at night, or maybe your parents have been watching the news? Those people still have to go to work every day so that they can share information with the community. So those are just some examples of essential workers. Can you say that? Essential workers. That's a long word. So your challenge is to write something to an essential worker. You could write a letter like I'm going to today and mail it. You could write a letter and maybe just put it in someone's mailbox or on their front door if they're your neighbor. If you live next to someone who's an essential worker that's still going to work, maybe you could get some chalk and draw on their driveway. If you don't really feel like writing, you could maybe draw a picture that says thank you and draw that person doing their job and send that to them. If you don't want to write or draw, maybe you could make a video for someone that you know that's an essential worker, and maybe you could send it to them or post it on a website maybe to them or send it to them on the phone. You could also pick up your phone and call them. If your grandma or your aunt or your uncle or your friend or someone is an essential worker, why don't you call them and tell them thank you for going to work every day? I bet that would make their day. What else could you do? You could tape something in a window that says thank you. Be creative. Anything that you can think of to tell people thank you would be a great idea. Just so you get an idea, if you decide to write a letter, I'm going to very quickly write a letter to my friend Kelsey, who was the very first picture I showed you. She works in a hospital in St. Louis right now. So she's going to work every day to make sure that she works at a children's hospital. So she's going to work every day to make sure that those children are staying healthy and safe. So if you've forgotten how to write a letter, let me show you how. Remember, at the top of a letter, you always write the date. I am writing this late Wednesday night, but when you see this, it will be Thursday, and Thursday will be April 9th. So we've changed months since we've been at school. Now we're in April, which is the 4th month of the year. So my date's going to be 4-9-20. Or, well, you can't see my dashes because I made them right on that line. There we go. Or you could write out the date. You could write April 9th, 2020, whatever you'd like. Remember, we always start a letter with dear. So I'm going to write Dear Kelsey. Do you remember what always goes after the opening of a letter? A comma. And then I'm going to tell her thank you. It doesn't have to be a long letter. I'm just going to write a couple sentences. I'm writing fast, but I'm doing my best to make sure that my words and my letters are neat and that my tall letters go all the way up and that my small letters stay underneath the line. Thank you for going to work each day during this time. What goes at the end? Period. Dear Kelsey, thank you for going to work each day during this time. Oops, my pen ran out right there. When you go into work, you are keeping people safe and healthy. And what am I going to put at the end? Period. Now, in that sentence, I said that she was keeping people safe and healthy. Oh my goodness. As I was writing, I just realized that I spelled that wrong. Miss Farthing was not paying attention. That is the word save, not safe. So I'm writing with a pen because I thought it would be easier for you to see, but I should have written in pencil. I'm going to change that V to an F. Oh no, I made a mistake. I was not thinking. Kind of like I brave spelled it. I wrote it like it sounded. So like I was saying, I wrote to Kelsey because she's a nurse. And so she's going to work to keep people safe and healthy. She's helping them if they're sick or if they're hurt. So that's why I use those two words. If you are writing to someone who delivers mail and you're going to leave a little note in your mailbox for your mail carrier, you could write something like, when you go to work, you're helping make sure that people still get their mail every day. Or if you're writing to someone who makes deliveries, you could say, you're making sure people still get their packages on time. Or if you're writing to someone who works in a grocery store or a restaurant, you could say that they were making sure or helping people to make sure that they're still getting their food. So depending on who you write to, you'll be thanking them for doing something different. So I have, thank you for going to work each day during this time. When you go into work, you are keeping people safe and healthy. There's my little mistake I made, but that's okay. My last sentence, I'm going to say, we all appreciate, that's a long word, how hard you are working. Since she's my friend and I don't get to see her often, I'm going to end it by saying, I miss you. And then remember, you always sign it at the end of a letter. So I'm going to sign it love. You could also put from or your friend, or if it's to your neighbor, you could put your neighbor, however you want to end it. I'm going to use the word love, and then underneath that word, I'm going to write my name. And since this is to my friend, I'm not going to sign it Miss Farthing. I'm going to sign it with my first name. And I know that you guys all giggle when you hear my first name. So I'm going to put Love Ashley because that's what she calls me. If you write to your grandma, you could say love your granddaughter or something like that. But that is my letter, and now it is ready to mail. So I'll put it in an envelope and I will stick it in the mailbox so that she gets it in a few days. But like I said, you don't have to write a letter. I have a card. Maybe you could write in a card. This card says thank you. If your parents have a card, you could write in a card. You could make a card out of a piece of paper. If you wanted to fold a piece of paper, you could write on the inside of that. You could draw a picture like we talked about. You could put something in a mailbox. You could make a phone call. You could send a video. Anything that you would like to do. But let's make sure we tell people who are still working right now that we appreciate them and that we are thankful for them. So if you do this, let me know. I would love to see what creative things you come up with or that you make or that you write. Talk to you soon. Bye.